What's going on, guys? So the video for the Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion track WAP dropped last week. This for me is fascinating because as soon as the video dropped, we saw two very different interpretations of the song. There were some people that said it was vulgar, crass and damaging to society, and there were other people that said it was liberating, empowering and exactly what society needed. Whenever you have two sides that are as different as each other, you always have to take a look and you always have to understand why. And for me, it's really going to come down to this perception that we as a society have and we as men have around women enjoying sex. So let's rewind and let's really look at the psychology surrounding sex. Let's look at it from the perspective of penetration and surrender, which is essentially the underpinning and the undercurrent of sex from a psychological perspective. I think in this day and age of the Me Too movement, saying things like penetrate and surrender could actually sound quite triggering. And I can completely understand why, because there's an interpretation now and there's a theory that often men have been a little bit more forceful and a little bit more manipulative than they should be in terms of getting what they want from the woman. And I think saying penetrate implies that really strongly, in fact. And I think saying penetrate also implies that that's something that's almost okay. But I challenge you now to look at the definition of penetrate and surrender and actually think about it in a different way. For me, penetrate and surrender comes down to something much more exciting and much more liberating and much more empowering. It comes down to two people that have such a strong sexual want for each other. It comes down to two people where there's so much sexual tension between the two of them that the penetration has to happen because they both want each other that much. So the surrendering is actually surrendering to the tension and surrendering to the passion. The problem is, I don't think people give that enough credit, and I think people just think that sex is an act. People see what they see in porn and think that sex is just about that. And I think even more damagingly, the narrative around penetrate and surrender really goes back into the worst two things about the genders. So for men, the penetration links into entitlement, which is essentially a man saying, as a man, I'm entitled to take what I want from the woman, and right now I want this woman. And then the surrender links into objectification, where a woman is with a man and she feels like she is essentially just there because he finds her attractive, or she is just there because the man wants her and she's just there as an object of sexual desire. And I think, unfortunately, that relationship actually plays out a lot in long-term relationships, casual relationships, and even marriages. I actually think there are a lot of couples that have probably never really had fulfilling or rewarding sex because the woman's never felt comfortable expressing what she wants sexually. So I'm just going to read the definition of empowerment now, just to explain a little bit more about why I think it's so important. The definition reads, to give someone the authority or power to do something, or to make someone stronger and more confident, especially in controlling their life and claiming their rights. So first of all, both genders have absolutely the same amount of rights when it comes to enjoying sex. But secondly, and I think this is the thing that really gets misunderstood, sex for me is about two people being together that are completely out of their heads, not thinking and feel completely comfortable with each other. And it also comes down to self-expression, because self-expression is something that we all need as human beings. And self-expression should absolutely take place sexually, because this can be one of the most fulfilling and rewarding types of self-expression. The problem is there's a taboo still in this day and age about women saying what they want sexually. The problem is it's still uncomfortable for some people to hear a woman say what she wants sexually. And I imagine for a lot of people, when they heard that WAP stood for wet ass pussy, instantly felt uncomfortable and couldn't quite believe that there were women using that type of terminology to describe themselves and to describe that part of their body. Which is ridiculous, because it's completely your right to use the language and it's completely your right to talk about your body in whatever way that you want. Yes, I completely understand that to release that song to people that haven't really thought about it, or to release that song to people that just don't like the word pussy, because there are plenty that don't like the word pussy, I can appreciate that that will be a taboo, that will feel challenging and people won't like that. But a woman talking about her body in that way is her choice. It's her choice. It's her self-expression. And if that's how she wants to express herself sexually, that's absolutely fine. And I think the problem is too, is when it comes to sexual empowerment, for men, sexual empowerment often feels like sexual emasculation. Because think about it. Have you ever met a man that ever acknowledges having any shortcomings in the bedroom? Have you ever met a man that says anything other than the fact that he's amazing in bed? Of course you haven't. The male ego is so completely wrapped up in sex. The male ego so completely links into bedroom performance. And I think as a result of that, men they don't even hear anything bad. They choose not to hear anything bad. And there's such a thing as conversational bias, where you listen out for things that reinforce your belief, rather than listening to what's actually being said. And I think when it comes to sex, men will hear little things and they'll take those little things that they hear and they'll use that to reinforce this idea that they are incredible in bed and that any woman would be lucky to have them. And if you think of what I said a minute ago about entitlement, that really strongly links in with that. And this is a problem because this means that a lot of women are firstly left underwhelmed when it comes to sex, but it's also a problem because it means that many women aren't expressing themselves sexually. And then if you think about what I said with the objectification, this links back into it, where a woman is just having sex, be it a husband, be it a partner, be it a boyfriend, or be it something casual, because she's in that environment with the man, and she knows that she's probably not likely to get the type of sex that she wants because she can't say it in case she damages the man's ego. And I think that's a massive reason why this song has been challenging for people. It really does challenge that. Firstly, it challenges the narrative that women can't express themselves sexually, but also it challenges the narrative that women actually do have sexual desires that maybe haven't always been met, or have sexual desires that maybe a man needs to think a little bit more of. So let me just read some of the lyrics now, which I think illustrate that perfectly. Extra large and extra hard. Put this pussy right in your face. Swipe your nose like a credit card. Hold on top, I wanna ride. I do a kegel while it's inside. Spit in my mouth, look in my eyes. This pussy is wet, come take a dive. Tie me up like I'm surprised. Let's role play, I'll wear a disguise. So this for me is fascinating because we have a woman talking about fantasy, role play, and we also have a woman that's being quite open and quite blunt in terms of how she wants the sex to be. We have a woman that's being really direct and saying like, look, this is what's going to turn me on. This is what's going to satisfy me sexually. And I think that's empowering. And I think men make this misinterpretation that a woman saying that is not emasculating you. A woman saying that is basically saying, look, this is gonna make our sex better because you empowering me and me empowering you is gonna lead to better, more rewarding and more fulfilling sex because we're both sexually self-expressing, which is so key and so exciting when it comes to that department. And the other thing that I think is really interesting to say is men watch porn, and men watch porn purely with the intention of objectifying the woman in that. And we know this from scientific research. We know there is a strong correlation between men that watch a lot of porn and the way they sexually objectify women on a day-to-day basis. And what that really means is that whenever it comes to enjoying sex with a real woman, or whenever it comes to hearing about sex, they automatically objectify. They don't go to this idea that a woman can have feelings, a woman can have fantasies, a woman can have desires. Instead, it's just, she's there for my objectification and that's all I'm gonna hear and that's all I'm gonna listen to. And I imagine as I say this, there's a lot of men going, oh, what a beta. Look at him talking about women's rights. But for me, this is about so much more than women's rights. This is about sexual rights. This is about sexual self-expression. And this is about something that's going to improve the whole process for both genders. So when I hear these lyrics and I read those lyrics like I did just then, I do think it's empowering because I think it's great to hear women saying what they want. And I think it's great that there could eventually be a little bit, at least in the short term, a little bit of a challenge against that taboo. And I, for one, am completely in favour with women expressing themselves sexually because sex is an act between two people and sex is an act that should be shared and enjoyed. And you're going to share it and you're going to enjoy it with someone much more the more comfort you have and the more self-expression that you have. So songs that express sexual self-expression, perfect. Got absolutely no problem with that. And I think it's even better and even more exciting that it's come from a woman saying that. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please can I ask you to click like and subscribe down below. If you really liked it, I am now offering one-on-one coaching at the link also down below. Thank you so much for watching this video.